worst fears came to pass as those Dolphins let us down. I don't know. I guess, you know what? I was going to say, where should I begin? And let's probably get it out the way. Both teams got injuries, so I can only probably talk about so much. But both pass rushers being gone was something I was worried about. It was cause against Josh Allen. Like, yes, you need a pass rush to tackle any quarterbacks and their offensive line, but also with the line that is, I mean, not the line, but the player that is Josh Allen. That's sort of a bigger deal, because especially if you can't contain him, he's fast and he's big. It's. And the thing is that yes, everybody sort of got pass rush and stuff like that, but I felt like with Phillips and Chubb, we have two of the more athletic ones in the league. Like some people are good pass rushers off of like moves, or I'm like, if Allen gets out, I'm like, oh, Phillips can run behind him. So that's a thing. I was like, even though we held up fairly well, with Ingram, who just barely there, and Wilkins did his job really well, but then we lost Van Grinkle, and it was like, okay, so we lost another one and another one when we lost like the youngster on special teams, and it's like, I mean, that was just more like the icing on everything. And I was like, I like Grinkle being a good pass rushing linebacker. Long, I think, is also well too, but you sort of just need him in pass coverage now, really, to be honest. With those out, like, yeah, you can't use him. He was a luxury to blitz earlier in the season. Now it's like you can't really use him like that. But I was like, let's do some positive. I just said Christian Wilkins. I think he played a really good game. I think Melvin Ingram played a really good game. Eli Apple played a really good game. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it of playing like a good game. And I was like, the defense held up there, especially the back end. I mean, yeah, like, yes, there was. I mean, they got two interceptions. I was like, they should have had a third. I think this game really, like, even with the injuries, it really just became a game of just like, what, like, miscues and stuff. Like, we really had the Bills in a little bit of disarray, and you think about it, two touchdowns was really shouldn't have happened, and like the touchdown to our ex receiver, that one baffles me because it got tipped up in the air. They're looking at it, and nobody at all chases down the ball. Like, even like, I mean, like, I get that it's like I was like, Trent made a really great catch and eyeing the ball and staying inbounds. Like, that was really great. But also, it just got tipped and nobody kept doing anything. And I'm like, so you don't even try to like. My thing is, I'm like, you track the ball and then worry about where it's at later. Like, if it's tipped up, you're like gonna run out and you're like, oh, I'm out. I was like, I seen the goalpost, I'm good, or something like that. But so that was one. And then, oh, also, I was like, A-Chain played really well. I did not think he would be as effective as he was. I mean, if they did like toss, I was like, don't get me wrong, like the second half, and that's sort of a momentum thing. But at the first half, I was like, he was running up the middle. He was running. I was like, he was running on him. He was effective. Then was the kick return, and yes, I was like the good. I was like, good, I think is his name. End up causing it due to his injury, kind of thing. But they ran into each other, so the injury didn't cause it. He ran into him anyway. Anyway, to the house. And at that point, I was like, we're going to lose. Because we haven't, like, we've been missing on. I was like, the offense wasn't clicking after those 2 touchdowns, to be honest. The offense wasn't. I was like, Tyreek Hill dropped a couple of passes that were just like, you should have had that. Even like, like for instance, like the pass interference he got, he should have caught that ball and he would have taken that to the house. So yes, it was a pass interference, but that should have been caught. Tyreek Hill had about 3 or 4 catches that should have been caught. Like where it was like, okay, there wasn't anything that was really like it. Like it wasn't just like, oh, it touched your hand, and that could be sort. Like they say, if you touch your hands, then you should catch it. But no. I was like, no, these was in your hands, and it was just like woo. And I guess they wasn't in your hands if you woo. After that, you know what it's like. It's like I don't know if you played the last college football game. It was like somebody lit a fire. It was like one of those type of mechanisms that just like all of a sudden the computer just wanted to play ridiculous. Because after that, the Buffalo Bills were a different team. Like they were smothering all of the run. It didn't matter. I was like they was coming up hitting. Like they was hitting. Poyer came up and hit. Like they changed the whole thing in the offense. On the other end, it's like, okay, after James Cook didn't catch that touchdown and they didn't get that play in, that's where I was still hopeful. That's where I was like, oh, okay, we got this. They didn't get that play in at the end of the half, but then Josh Allen I was like, he did those 2 interceptions at the beginning of the game, and then he just flipped. He was like, all right, no more interceptions. I was like, he had the fumble. We didn't do nothing with, and after that, he was just finding dudes. Shakir, Trent. I was like, Diggs had like 8 catches, but it didn't seem like he had that many. Them having Knox back, which I sort of said that I was fearful about, because I was like, Kincaid and Knox, they both could run. They're both big. I'm like, we had Baker back. But and really outside of him, there's really, like I said before, I'm like, there's not really big people on we don't have big people on, like our defensive ends are really, and Ramsey is like our biggest people, and then Baker now, but so I was like, man, I was like, now we're gonna have to, Hollins ain't play, so we had to just like devote like other people to cover those 2 dudes, while you still had Diggs out here, and Davis didn't even like play anymore the rest of the game, and it didn't matter. And I was like, I was like, yo, they really, to be honest, I was like, they sort of have their shifty fast players on the field though. I was like, Trent is not, he's shifty. He's not like fast. But Shakir and Hart, they're all fast and shifty. So it's like how we have Barrios and Craycraft. It's like, oh, they're shifty, but like Barrios can be fast. And we couldn't do, nobody else really like, I don't know what happened to the offensive gameplay in the second half, and that's sort of what worries me when things aren't clicking. And to be honest, if you sort of look at the defense of the Bills, they sort of were playing the same defense throughout the whole game. I think they got more aggressive of blitzing and coming after Tua, and were just like, all right, cool, we're just going to rush this ball out your hands. But if you look at it, I'm like, with Tyreek, I was like, couple like that. And this was maybe crazy, because I was like, the second half ball that he dropped, he was more open than the first half balls he was catching, because those were like high balls. He had to jump up, where I'm like, it's 4 people and you got to throw it right into the zone gap, and he was doing it for that amount of time. But they were also high at the same time. But also, I just like the interception that he threw it, when he threw it to Tyreek Hill. Like A-Chain was like over there, and he had a wheel route. So So it's like it's really hard to see like if he could have threw it to Achane, if the DBs would have been able to get it over there in time, or if he, or like, but kind of like by the time that the interception happened, Achane was there, so maybe he was enough yard back that if Tua threw it to him, he could. I was like he could throw it low and try to like have it catch it outside of DB. Either way, they sort of was really close, but I don't understand that type of pass. Like Tua doesn't have that type of arm strength. Also, Tyreek Hill wasn't past those dudes at that time to justify throwing that ball with his arm strength. So that one was really a weird ball that you wanted him to do. Then the one to end and seal the game, I don't I don't get also, and it's the Claypool, and I'm like, it seems like I'm like Claypool 6'4", 230, big receiver. I know sometimes he doesn't go up and pinpoint the ball at the highest point, but that is not the route I felt like you should have threw to Claypool. Also, I get Tyreek Hill is off to the side. Why is that the play call when everybody's like, oh, we don't have to worry about none of these guys? Which is another fear when Waddle and Tyreek Hill is there, and then you got Cedric Wilson. Okay, cool. You just like pick your poison, and it's like cool. I was like Cedric Wilson have that matchup. I was like, but they didn't really. I was like, we didn't really. You like I don't think we used Claypool right. Wilson, I don't think he got too many shots that I felt like he needed to. I the offense just stagnated in a way that, and I even noticed a couple times. And I'm like, I know that a lot of McDaniel stuff is like, okay, like we run sort of the play out of like this base, and then you might got 4 or 5 plays in this mode and all of those stuff. But I was like, I didn't notice, like I was like in the same drive, I was like, he just did that same play where he just tossed the A-chain and got stuffed to the right. Then they just flipped it to the left, and then there was another like loss of yards, and I'm like, okay, I know that looked like the same play, and I'm not over here being like a guru on like football, like in that way to know like, oh, well, they're gonna set up for this or something like that. I ain't doing no Tony Romo thing out here. It sort. I was like, you can't even really blame injury because they have had injury. They lost Douglas tonight on the Bills side, so you can't even say nothing like that either. It would just I was like, McDaniels, offensive coach, didn't do right. Tua didn't do right, and Tyreek dropped some passes, and that's where I'm putting the blame on this team. Cause I think the defense did fairly well considering all the losses and the makeshift that they have to do. I said no Hollins, no Howard, no Chubb, no Phillips, they lost Grinkle. And your defense basically held them to really like 14 points, and to be honest, 7 points. Cause that was a give it props, but that was a lucky catch, and the one that Knox got his pass. They stopped Allen when they needed to stop Allen on that 4th and short. You can't ask any more of that defense. In a game like this, your offense and I'm like, they got 3 turnovers. Your offense needs to blow them out the doors and not give them any hope. And then if Josh Allen just goes bonkers, then it's just kind of like, well, damn, on the defense they ain't have people. That would be understandable. But the fact that the offense just stalled, didn't really take advantage of the turnover, didn't take advantage of the defense playing well, didn't take advantage of them having the Bills not being able to do it. It's just, I was like, that's just aggravating. And to be honest, if we would have won, we would have played the Bills again, which you know how it goes with the third matchup. I was like, they already split, so I mean they would have split at that moment. But at the same time, if this would have been a more competitive game with all the losses they had, I wouldn't have been that confident really even playing them again. But now we get to play the Chiefs, and what I guess what we're hoping is that the Chiefs is still playing how they was on offense, to where it's like, okay, cool. The problem is like, while that gives you a chance, it's also Patrick damn Mahomes, and you can never count him out, Will Kelsey, even though their offense been just as ugly. But their defense has been playing hella good. They got all their people playing against our offense that just looks like, yes, I understand we're playing with backups on the line and all this other stuff. Everybody got injuries, and yes, we have a whole bunch more, but the offense is still run pretty well. And if you don't have things in your offense to overcome, like not overcome, but to balance out, because I'm like, some of these things that I'm like two is like do, like he got to do is drop backs, pass it. But I'm like, okay, we need some faster things. That's what we need. If the line is bad like this, we can't really run the ball effectively, and Tua also is just throwing the ball away. I'm just saying. I was like, get some. I was like, I don't remember. I ain't seen no screens. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the Chiefs. Maybe later on in the week I'll feel a little bit better about it. But right now I'm like, I don't know. Well, anyway, that's the sadness of the Dolphins. It was like a chance at the division. Shouldn't even been at this point, considering where the Bills were a couple weeks ago, and yet they're lucky that by the end of the night they both were gonna make it. Cause I'm just saying. Anyway, the see it for the Chiefs.